In a remote village in Israel, there stood an old abandoned house that had been left untouched for years. Local rumors spoke of the house being haunted by the spirit of a little girl who tragically died there decades ago. According to tales whispered among the villagers, the little girl often wandered the hallways of the house at night, seeking someone to play with. One night, a farmer from the village named Yosef dared to enter the house in search of valuable items left behind. As he stepped inside, a chilling atmosphere engulfed him. The dim light from the moon filtered through cracked windows, casting an eerie glow on the decrepit walls and floors. Yosef felt a chill despite the warm night air outside. He sensed an unsettling presence, as if someone or something was watching him from the dark corners. Footsteps echoed on the old wooden floors, though Yosef was certain he was alone. Suddenly, a small figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Yosef cautiously approached, suppressing the rising fear within him. But as he drew closer, the surroundings grew darker. As Yosef neared the small figure, he heard a faint giggling that sent shivers down his spine. He turned around, but there was nothing there but darkness and the faint sound of the night wind rustling through dusty windows. Yosef felt something lurking, something unseen. With swift steps, Yosef turned and ran towards the exit. Yet, the door that had opened easily before was now tightly shut, as if some force prevented his escape. He tried to force it open, but to no avail. Strange whispers filled the room, echoing from the old wooden walls. As Yosef was about to give up, the small figure appeared again in front of him. This time, it was clearer. A young girl in a faded white dress, her pale face devoid of expression except for a chilling smile on her lips. She reached out to Yosef, inviting him to join in an endless game of darkness. Without hesitation, Yosef summoned all his strength to flee. With a powerful kick, he managed to open the door and dashed out, his breath ragged. He never returned, and the village began avoiding the haunted house, leaving it locked in mystery and unspoken terror. In the midst of the vast Negev desert, there lay a small oasis surrounded by lush date palm trees. On the edge of this oasis stood an ancient building known as the Forbidden House by the locals, believed to be inhabited by a malevolent supernatural entity. The story unfolds on a dark and windy night. Miriam, a traveler fascinated by the mysterious tales of the building, decided to camp near the oasis. Despite warnings from the locals not to approach the house at night, Miriam's curiosity outweighed her caution. As the night grew darker, the air turned colder and silence enveloped the oasis. Miriam sat in her tent, trying to remain calm despite every rustle of the wind causing her hair to stand on end. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside her tent, though there was no one around when she checked. Miriam's heart raced as a large shadow appeared outside her tent. It moved slowly among the date palms, reflecting the moonlight strangely. She held her breath, afraid to make a sound, trapped in a fear that gripped her. The shadow drew closer, and Miriam saw clearly that it was a human figure with a face devoid of light and eyes radiating darkness. The entity did not move like a normal human, but with unnatural, threatening movements. Without warning, the entity stopped just outside her tent. Miriam could feel an aura of malevolence surrounding her, filling the air with an unexplainable tension. The entity then began speaking with a hoarse voice that pierced Miriam's heart, recounting dark aspects of its past and pleading to be freed from a tormenting curse. Despite her fear, Miriam realized she had to act. With all the courage she could muster, she grabbed a bottle of holy water from her bag and began reciting a protective prayer. The entity trembled and emitted a bluish light, as if being consumed by a higher power. In an instant, the shadow disappeared, leaving Miriam in a now peaceful but eerily fragrant air. She knew the encounter had left a deep mark on her, but she was also certain she had faced something not everyone dared to confront. Since that night, The villagers avoided the oasis and the ancient building nearby more cautiously, letting the dark power that resided there remain locked in the vast and endless secrets of the desert. In a small town nestled in the Galilee Mountains, there stood an old villa known as the Haunted Villa. This building had stood since Ottoman times and was believed to have a dark history associated with tragic events from the past. It was rumored to have been the residence of a wealthy nobleman who was involved in forbidden and occult practices. The story begins with a young archaeologist named David who arrived in the town with the intention of conducting research on local history. He became intrigued by the haunted villa after hearing stories from the local community about paranormal activities there. Despite warnings from the locals not to approach the villa, David's curiosity only grew stronger. On a windy and foggy night, David decided to enter the villa alone. He cautiously tread through the dark and dusty corridors. The atmosphere inside the villa was eerily silent and tense, as if it held secrets from the past that refused to be revealed. As David entered the main room of the villa, he felt as though he was being watched by something unseen. Shapeless shadows seemed to move in the corners of the room, creating an increasingly eerie atmosphere. However, the young archaeologist pressed on with his research, ignoring his escalating fear. Suddenly, David heard a faint laughter behind him. He quickly turned around, but there was no one there. Only the shifting shadows continued to move around him at an unsettling and unnatural pace. A sense of discomfort filled David's mind, but he remained determined to uncover the truth behind the haunted villa's legends. As he ventured deeper into the villa, David felt an odd pressure on his chest. The air grew heavier, as if a presence was trying to hinder his progress. However, David's curiosity could not be dampened. He searched for any evidence that could shed light on the dark history of the villa. When he reached a hidden underground room, David discovered ancient archives wrapped in dust and decay. He was excited to uncover records detailing strange activities that had occurred there, including mysterious rituals conducted by the villa's inhabitants in the 18th century. However, David's joy was short-lived. While busy taking photographs of the ancient documents, he heard strange whispers emanating from a corner of the room. The whispers were indecipherable, but enough to send shivers down his spine. Suddenly, the lights in the room went out, plunging everything into complete darkness. David tried to turn on his flashlight, but it failed to work. He was trapped in the dark room, surrounded by an oppressive silence. The atmosphere grew even more tense as he heard footsteps approaching rapidly. He sensed an unseen presence closing in on him, threatening to attack from all sides. In desperation, David began reciting a protective prayer he remembered from his childhood. However, the strange noises intensified, and he felt the presence drawing nearer. Just as he was about to give up hope, a bright light illuminated the room from outside. Local villagers, worried about his disappearance, had come to rescue him. David was quickly pulled out of the villa, leaving behind a place filled with darkness and fear. He felt grateful to have survived the terrifying experience, but also felt compelled to uncover more of the hidden secrets within the haunted villa. Since that night, the haunted villa remained a tantalizing mystery for explorers seeking to unravel the dark legends of the remote Galilee region.